What is up, BookTube? It's Monty, and today I'm here to do another Friday Reads video. Again, I'm filming this on a Thursday, because otherwise it would not be up nearly as early as it is going to be when you're watching this. I am expecting some book mail, but I figured that I would start off talking about the books that I finished this week, because I finished 3 since my last video. And so yeah, so I finished The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation, but there'll be a thing over here if you can get it. Earlier this year, this came out. It doesn't matter. It's out. It's been out for a really long time. People were comparing it to Six of Crows. Six of Crows is not a book that I've read, but just comparing the tone from Shadow and Bone to The Gilded Wolves, I feel that's questionable, because the tone of those, like the writing style of both writers is just not there. And so to be like, well, we have one heist book, we don't need another heist book, it's like, I don't know. I think that's just racism. It's just straight racism. I really enjoyed The Gilded Wolves. It was a historical fantasy, but it was a fantasy that I felt that as someone who reads a lot more contemporary things, who doesn't always vibe well with fantasy. I say I don't vibe well with fantasy. Everything I finished this week was fantasy. Spoiler alert. But The Gilded Wolves was easy to get into. It was easy to read. I loved most of it. I didn't think it was the best book I've ever read in my entire existence, but it did bring up a lot of the similar things that I felt reading A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. It brought up a lot of the same themes as this one did, of like colonialism and dealing with colonialism and the impact of that on people of color, because this is specifically about black people in a fictionalized African-like country, but The Gilded Wolves is historical fiction, so it deals with actual minorities who are actually impacted by colonialism and white imperialism and white supremacy. So I thought that was really great. And I think that's something that definitely, I think that authors of color deal with that, I think, more than their white counterparts when they, do fantasy. But I hadn't seen it handled quite as well as it was in The Gilded Wolves, specifically because it wasn't dealing with, made-up races or like an allegory with a fantastical thing. It was like, no, like this character is actually half Filipino, or this character is actually a Jewish person, and we're actually going to talk about how terrible the Russians were to them. Like that in a fantasy, anyone who's out here comparing it to anything in a negative way, I'm just like, y'all need to sit down and re-examine your life choices. I don't think it's a book for everybody. I don't think that because of those things that you should love it, but I think that you need to like really be taking a look in the mirror, because just take a look in the mirror. Then I think I finished this next. I could be wrong. I'd have to go on Goodreads to make sure, but I think next I finished City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare, which I gave 2 stars, which we all know is not a bad rating here on this channel. Goodreads says that 2 stars means that you liked the book, because I liked it, but I did not love it, so I gave it 2 stars. The only bad rating that I give out is either I don't rate the book, which we're going to get into with the next one, or I give it a 1 star. Anything better than a 1-star review on my channel, for me personally, is a good rating. So, let's talk about this. City of Fallen Angels takes place, that doesn't look good at all, but I'm not gonna worry about how it looks in the background. It takes place after the original trilogy, and it's set up, a couple of weeks, maybe it's a couple of months. It's very short after the end of whatever happened, what down in Idris, and where you have the same cast of characters. They're still around, they're still doing their thing. Most of the book is actually really slow, but the 3rd act does pay off. Like, I think that you can see Cassandra Clare building towards something after you get to the something, but I feel like in the moment it never feels like you're building to anything. It reads very much like a contemporary novel, just with supernatural elements, and I think that's why I'm determined to get through the Shadowhunter books, because they do read like contemporaries that just happen to have fantastical people. doing fantastical things. And I also love Simon. Although I do think that, like, Simon is always, like, 3 sentences away from being a no homo dude bro. And I can't really defend that. But I love Simon, and so far I'm continuing to read this just for Simon. Not that I don't like Clary or Jace or Isabel. I don't like Alec. Little baby Monty was really drawn to Alec, but Alec here in City of Fallen Angels, trash character. Just a complete garbage can of a human being. And I feel bad because he's not really in City of Fallen Angels, but it really has put me off the Red Scrolls of Magic, because I'm like, how do I... Because even, like, the Alec in the original trilogy, he was always in the background, like, he had nothing to do. So it's like, the moment you get something to do and you make him, like, a garbage can of a human being, and I'm like, then you want me to go and read the Red Scrolls of Magic, which takes place before City of Fallen Angels, when, in theory, he's the person I remember from the original trilogy. But then I'm like, there's no way for him to get from that to here. I feel like Alec in these books has just not been great. I mean, to be fair, I don't really like most of the dynamics as they're written in Cassandra Clare's works. I am a TV show fan. I think that the TV show did it better. But we're going through it. So I read City of Fallen Angels. It was cute or whatever. I think that most people class that as their least favorite of the Mortal Instruments. And I would probably agree with that. I didn't like it as much, but it is what it is. There's nothing I can really do about that. And then on Tuesday, technically it was Monday, I read The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. And on Tuesday, I tried to go live twice, and apparently I did not actually go live, and so I was sitting here talking to myself for 30 minutes, and I just never realized. It's whatever. I then made like a quick 10-minute thing, and I had that up for like literally 10 minutes, and I was like, I hate that video. So I took it down. The Queen of Nothing is one of those books that I did not rate. And it's not that I didn't like it, it's that I rate books based on enjoyment. And I didn't particularly enjoy The Queen of Nothing. And I was conflicted in that, because as someone who was already just kind of like whatever, I felt very meh about the first 2 books. I liked, in retrospect, I think that The Cruel Prince is my favorite, but I was very just middle of the road about the series as a whole. But when I was reading The Queen of Nothing, I could see how it was a objectively decent finale, and so there was a part of me that was like, well, I know this wraps up things in a way that I think a lot of readers will be happy about, that will connect with them, but it didn't connect with it for me. But what really bothered me the most was Taryn's storyline. I felt that it just was not complete in any kind of meaningful way. It really bothered me the entire way through. Not only just the stuff with Locke, but just, it was like, you're pregnant, and then she kind of faded away in the background, and she ends the story, like, little more than, like, a servant girl situation, like, maybe on, like, Locke's estate. Who knows? Like, there's really no closure for her, and I felt that it was just a disservice to a character that had been built up over the course of the series, who, much like Jude, is a mortal girl in Elfheim, and all of the other I think there's like one other major human character in play at the court, but all the other humans in Elfheim you're shown them in servitude to the fairies. The fairies hold them in very low regard, right? So they're like, all of them are trash humans according to the fairy. Like, they're there for the pleasure of the fairy. And you see Jude and Taryn as 2 humans, as 2 mortals, who get to exist kind of elevated and comparison to other humans. You know, they aren't servant girls, they aren't treated like trash, they live a relative, I mean, yes, Matta killed their family, but they live in a nice house, they have the fine dresses, they go to school with the prince and his cohorts, like, they are very much elevated in this society, despite the fact that they're mortals, and the only real use that fairies seem to have for them is, like, literally to be incubators for the race. So to see Taryn over the course of the series trying to find ways to maintain that status and not drop below that, so that means, you know, betraying Jude to secure her spot, to being with Locke, to doing everything in her power to find a space in Fairy, in Elfheim, in a way that suits who she is as a person, because as we already know, she isn't a fighter like Jude. To see her in the story as, like, Taryn's, like, just sitting here making Jude look queenly, to, like, being an interior decorator to make, you know, the power plays. I feel like all of those were downgraded because we had to read them through Jude's perspective. Like, I felt like in the latter half of the book, Jude had slightly more respect for the talents that Taryn was able to cultivate. Like, she understood the power of the imagery that she could not have done without Taryn. But it didn't feel like Taryn had any, like, she just kind of faded into the background. And I didn't like that. And so that's the most of the reason why I did not like this book. But everything else was just whatever. I don't have super strong opinions on just about anything else that happened, because I think that while I don't really care about Jude as a person, I think that what she did or whatever in this installment was whatever. You know, it was consistent with the character that that Holly Black had written, and so it is what it is. So that's what I read this week. I didn't realize I had finished 3 things, but shout out to me. I think I finished Gilded Wolves last week on Friday, but that is neither here nor there. So we're going to get into what I want to read this weekend. Again, it's just the same thing from last weekend, plus I want to continue to read Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. This is what I'm reading on ebook. After I read The Queen of Nothing on my phone, I was like, you know what, I could really get into this ebook situation. So I I kept the Kindle app downloaded, and I checked out Brightly Burning as an ebook for my library. I've tried to read this a couple of times this year, and I like the writing style, but her second book that's coming out next, I think it's in January, The Stars We Steal, which is a Persuasion in Space meets I think it's actually Jane Austen in space meets The Bachelor. It's a thing that I'm really here for, because I was one of those people that really liked the selection. I never finished that series, but I read the selection and I really liked the whole, like, dystopian meets The Bachelor setup, and the fact that The Stars We Steal is a standalone. I want to read it, but it's set in the same world as Brightly Burning, so I figured that I might as well get around to reading that. So that's before I go to bed, I tried to read some of that, but I'm reading City of Lost Souls currently. I'm on page 302, I think. 302 as of filming this. I probably will get further in this today and into tomorrow, because I haven't done any reading yet today. So far, I don't really care about this one. Again, it feels like setup, but at least this time you can actually see things in play, so I think it's more enjoyable in that way. I think Aileen Penhallow made a brief appearance in this one. It might have been at the end of City of Fallen Angels, but I think Aileen Penhallow she came in for like 3 seconds at the beginning of this one. And if you haven't watched any of my other Shadowhunter content videos, Aileen Penhallow is my favorite character. She was my favorite thing about City of Glass, and she is why I want to get to the Dark Artifices, because I like Aileen Penhallow. I'm going to not think about the fact that the Penhallows and the Blackthorns are related, so I can continue to ship Helen and Aileen, and she hasn't appeared since, so it's not even like she got to be a big part of this, and I also think that's kind of strange. It's like you had a really, you know what, I'm not even going to talk about it. So, City of Lost Souls, it's okay so far. Again, Simon is what's really pushing me through this. Again, also I want to say that I think Simon and Jace haven't interacted in around like 200-ish pages, but I think that it's really strange how those two characters have more chemistry than Magnus and Alec. Like, anytime Malik interacts in this book, I'm just kind of like, you know what, I really don't support this. I'm not here for it. I don't know. Like, I think part of it is the age difference, where in the book, like, I think Alec is like freshly 18 and Magnus is damn near 500 years old. But I'm also just kind of like, Alec, I don't like you in this book. Like, you are literally the worst, and I just don't see. And they're also just background players. Like, they continue to be background players, and I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of like, even now that we have like perspectives from every player before we end a chapter, I'm kind of like, the Alec perspectives they're the worst. Like, they are what really I'm not feeling. And while I don't think I'm actually going to finish this, in addition to that, I want to at least start City of Heavenly Fire. I have never read this one. So this will be my first time through, and I want to get to it. But I would like to at least start City of Heavenly Fire by Sunday night. Okay, hello, it's Monty, back obviously. So I went out and I read a little bit more of Lost Souls, and I just have... it's like 40-ish pages left, so this is probably gonna get finished tonight. I'm probably gonna light my candle, read for an hour or so until I'm done with this one. So technically this is not a Friday read, technically this is a Thursday read, but whatever. That means I have all weekend to finish Cassandra Clare's City of Heavenly Fire, so my goal of starting it by Sunday should be met. But I'm back here because I have some book mail from, this is from Random House, and I already know technically what this book is. If it's not what I think it is, I will be surprised, because they reached out and they're like, hey, do you want any of these? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll read this. At the time of the email, this book was still in the running for a Goodreads Choice Award, and I don't think that it is anymore, so I probably won't try to get to it this weekend. Oh, I didn't know they had deckled edges, but they have deckled edges. The more you know. But it is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schulte. I'll leave a link down below to the Goodreads page for the synopsis, because all I know about this is that Heather read it earlier this year, and I think Heather liked it, and it's also a standalone fantasy. But, yeah. Like I said, this was sent to me by Penguin Teen, so this might get, like, if somehow I miraculously finish City of Heavenly Fire this weekend, I might pick this up, but I think this is just gonna, probably won't happen this weekend, but who knows? Who knows? Anything is possible. But thanks for watching. I guess I can put Lost Souls over there because it's not done. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again in another video. But until then, bye.